My first reaction is that your love has created this film.
Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you so much.
And the title, I like it very much. Moving Mountains. I have often used this terminology while building Rajneeshpuram, and afterwards combating with daily problems, daily issues. When you are dealing with these issues, they are mountainous. And when you find a solution for it, you have moved the mountains. It can happen to a mother and child. It can happen among friends. It can happen on a construction site or while you're making film. It is a daily event if you focus on it and with awareness move the situation from a problem to solving. You have moved your mountains.
And you have moved many mountains.
Yes, I have moved many, many mountains.
How was it for you to leave Bhagwan? How did you come to the point that you were able to leave the one you loved so fully and devotionally?
That was the strength of the love I felt for him. In love, I moved mountains, created a city with help of his people. Same love came to rescue me when I was having heartache and felt that I cannot continue in this environment. Then I had to go. He has to find somebody new to take over who understands the situation and problem better. I left knowing well that I do not know the outside world. And I may have many difficulties, but I was not there for power of being Bhagwan's secretary. I loved him, and it was time for me to go then, and I left.
So you had a few difficult periods in your life, and one of them was, of course, going to prison. But then in prison, you even there tried to build a commune or even build a commune. Can you give an anecdote about that? Because in the interview, you just said, oh, well, you know what? I married someone. That's what you did. How did you do that? How did you create even there a commune?
When I would sit to eat, we all came together in a dining area with other prisoners, and I would find myself a corner that is a bit isolated. And people must have watched, and they started, after a week, come and sit near me around. I didn't ask them to. People can sit freely wherever the place is free. And they started asking me, how can you eat this food so peacefully? And I would answer to them. I would say, right now I must maintain my health, and I eat this food as if it is my last meal. And they started also stop complaining about it and came and sat with, and we ate together with small talks.
In your book, Don't Kill Him, you mentioned that you were actually guarding the prison cell so your prison mates could have their free time with their partners.
No. It's reverse.
It's reverse.
Yeah. My prison colleague in this room, she would guard when I would go to the shower, and she would not allow me to go to the washing machine area, because these are the two places where fights would break out. And she called me with the name Mrs. Kennedy. For her, I was representing Mrs. Kennedy.
I notice when you talk, it's all in humility. And I wonder where that comes from. And you talk about moving mountains. For me, it seems like you're able to face your inner demons with such a grace, such an ease. But was it always that easy? Or did you face fears and did you act regardless of those fears? And how did you do that?
Fearlessness, I have learned from my father, from childhood. We were taught in the family that when you have something on your heart, speak about it. And my father personally taught me fearlessness. We had a 3-story house, and we slept on the terrace upstairs. And I would be afraid in the dark to go up on a 3rd floor to the terrace. So when father found out that I'm afraid of it, he put me on his shoulder and he walked with me each room and each area and said, "Here is nothing. What are you afraid of?" So from childhood, this was worked on it. And then I fall in love with a man who was a roaring lion. So I learned more fearlessness with Bhagwan.
Does it mean that the fear eventually was absent?
No, nothing happened, but it had a logic. Logic, father tried to explain. We go through each room and look at it. And if there is something that is fearful, then you tell me. But there wasn't. So it was a fantasy of the fear, which many children have it in their young age, or many people here might have had it also.
But Ma Sheela, you are never afraid?
Let's say I would have to remember if I was afraid. In that sense, I was never afraid. And it is also very clear that I'm not afraid. I should be afraid of my audience here in a normal term. Why? Because audience have the power to ask me any question they want to ask me. And I don't prepare my talk. I come totally as you saw me, and I sit in front of you, and I'm ready to answer your questions. Why people are afraid? Because they are seeking approval of others. If you don't need approval, you can be yourself. And when you are yourself, you're not afraid.
I remember of Bhagwan that he preached free love in a time when, for example, India was very conservative and gays and lesbians at that time had a horrible life. They committed a lot of suicide and all this, same in Holland and same with the Indian diaspora. So that is one of the most positive things. And I hear now from gays and lesbians in India that Bhagwan was one of the founders of their liberation and he deserves a statue for that. Do you agree with that?
You're talking thing about free love. It is not a question of free love. Bhagwan talks of sexuality in general. And sexuality, one should explore, not become pervert. what Bhagwan is talking about sexuality is from totally different dimension. But we humans understand this dimension from our own perversion.
But do you agree with the fact that he does deserve to be honored for the fact that he preached free love?
Absolutely, he didn't preach free love. He preaches that sexuality is the same basic energy. This same-sex sexuality is individual choice. It is a free exercise of one's choice.
I have a question about you being in love with Bhagwan. And I'm very happy that you indulged totally in that love, because it's very important to be able to express your love. But I was wondering, did the love become from a sense of seva, as you are still giving a lot of seva? And is that part of your nature? Or was that something that I should call a female love for a man?
This seva part began as a selfish understanding. My parents were getting old. I was just out of prison. I felt they had suffered more than even I suffered in. So I started this seva to offer my parents in old age a place that I would accept, that is a nice place for my parents. So I had to naturally create that. So from this point, I began and realized and recognized how I need to offer the love that I have received from my parents and Bhagwan. How can I give it and share it with others? So it is a direct act for my parents and also for Bhagwan. And love has to become devotion. If love doesn't become devotion, you then remain at level here. When it becomes devotion, then you can reflect love much more.
So it was like a devotional love and not like a physical love.
No. It is, my love for Bhagwan had no sexual aspect.
In fact, you were married, right? Before you actually came to his ashram in Pune. You were married at that time. We have shared a few pictures of your husband, Mark Chinmaya.
Right.
Yes. Can you say something more about that relationship that you had with him? Because the thing is, we didn't really tap into that in the film.
My first husband, his name was Mark Silverman. And when we met Bhagwan and took sannyas, his name became Chinmaya, Prem Chinmaya Swami. We had met in university together.
In America.
In America, in New Jersey, where I was living. We fell in love. He didn't want to participate in this soft, loving feelings with me because he had a Hodgkin's disease. He was a young man of 22, suffering from Hodgkin's disease, was given 1.5 years to live. So I said to him, it is not a valid reason. And we were into logic those days. So if something logical is, then I would accept or he would accept. So logic says he's going to die and he doesn't want to leave me with the pain of death. So I said, then you want to leave me for 100 years with the pain of security. that I would marry somebody for security. How is it possible? Then he said, okay, your argument is valid. And we got married. We were also against marriage, but that too, we won over with logic. How can we be against marriage when we are not married? So, reason to get married. So we got married, and he lived with me 13 good years, not 1.5 years, but 13 good years. And Bhagwan gave us a technique, how we overcome the fear of death. I point at you how you overcome with different fears. Bhagwan said, you are lucky, you and Chinmaya are lucky, that death is coming with drums, announcing itself. And when death comes with drums, dance with it. Don't run away from it because it's going to come. So understand it. Now don't waste your time in petty things and enjoy one another fully.
Thank you for coming. I have a question. Osho's real name was Rajneesh Chandramohan. Why do you still call him Bhagwan after so many years? And also after so many controversial things like use of drugs and that kind of things?
Bhagwan belongs to my heart. And there is no other title I can call him with, because he doesn't need any titles. Then I give him a title myself, Bhagwan.
And where is the name Osho coming from?
Well,
Not from me.
So, yes, so in this film, we even consequently called him Bhagwan. Even myself, in the voiceovers, it was Bhagwan, because that was the word that resonated with you when we spoke about him. So I am curious to know that, coming back to your transformation, because I was very curious about your transformation, that Matru Sadhan and Bapu Sadhan, the two homes that you have founded 34 years ago, you have expanded that. You suddenly came to Mauritius on a holiday, and you saw the situation. So tell me and tell the audience, because I'm fascinated by your seva.
Well, when you have to do work, work comes by itself to you. I was vacationing with my sister, my oldest sister, Rekha, whom we hadn't seen each other enough. She lived in California, I was here. And so we found a moment free where we both can enjoy one another again. We come to Mauritius, a paradise island, and we had a quick shower, coffee, tea, and having small conversation with the waiter. And he's asking, where are you from? What do you do? And I mentioned that I'm in a healthcare. I have created a concept for handicap homes and old age homes. Then that gave me opportunity to ask him, what do you do with your handicap and old people? He says, they send them to ashram. Ashram? That word I know quite a lot because I had lived a number of years in Pune Ashram. I was part of the creation of Pune Ashram also. So I said, ashram? Can you give me address? He said, no, ma'am, you go out of the gate of the hotel, and it's 250 meters. There are 3 ashrams. I didn't know. So I immediately finish my coffee and I go to look at it. And the first ashram I came to, it was devastating. From hygiene point of view, it was unacceptable. How people were cared for was not acceptable for me. And the atmosphere. Then I went few meters further and there was second ashram and it was the same situation. Then third, I didn't bother to go. I went back. I said, Sheila, you cannot complain about it if you cannot do something about it. So I had a choice to keep my mouth shut or do something. And I was already 60-year-old then. And it was quite far from Zurich, the flight to Mauritius. I come home, I talk to my sister, you saw her on the film, and she says, you are mad, you can't do that, you are an old woman, you're 60, now stop talking. She's shaking her head. Teresa, she knows them. We worked together for a long time. And I said, if I won't do it at 60, I will have no chance of doing it later because I'll get older. My sister gave me good thrashing, verbal thrashing. You do only what you want to do. You don't listen to anybody, all that. And I said, yes. And next week I fly back to Mauritius. And we started this new home. And it's still running.
One in Mauritius and in Vietnam, probably. But why not in India?
Why don't you
Why
have
not in India? I went with the idea of doing it after COVID. But I had a bit of difficulty to find someone that I can rely on, because taking care of people, if they come from heart, they have different quality. And who do I rely on? And I'm away from India so long, I don't know anybody. Until Maheshwari came, I didn't know anybody from anywhere else either.
Okay, but another thing that I noticed when I was at your home is that all the people who work for you, they work there not just for 1 or 2 years, they stick around for almost 20 years. What have you done to them?
What did I do? Let me see. I mesmerized them.
Wow.
I have a very good connection with my team and also my residents. My average resident is in 34 years now, over 20, and same with my team. They're part of my life. I love them.
Do you use in your homes only Western medical science, or do you combine it with traditional Indian like Ayurvedic or other things?
We are part of the government homes now, and we have very strict guidelines. So we follow those guidelines, 98%, and 2% where I have conviction that my way is better to care for them, then we will find a way from government to give us for those 2% permission, and we do it. We have doctors who are working with allopathy, and some work with homeopathy also. Or during travel, when I meet somebody and I feel really they can help my people, then I will bring them in, or their advice. They can give me advice, and then I take responsibility and give them further. But no rigidity. We are flexible and determined to care for these people. We do not want to ignore them, calling them that they are not repairable. Even if they are not repairable, they have to have a wonderful death experience, because we all are going to go one day. And we all have to have an easy understanding of love, so become friends with death.
So, Ma Sheela, thank you so much for being here this evening. Actually, my question is twofold. When you look back at, let's say, this chapter of Bhagwan or Osho and his rise and fall, right? What is it that was personally for you as a part of that chapter? What is personally your biggest lesson or eye-opener? And what would you wish mankind to learn, so all of us, to learn from this?
Be yourself. Don't compromise because what people will say. Have conviction.
But aren't you sad that, in a way, it was a downfall that he has experienced as a self-made guru?
I don't know if you write it as a downfall. I see it as a success.
So Bhagwan was a success?
You can fall down only when you climb up. And Bhagwan's experiment was fully successful because I sit here today. It was his way of training me to live in a community, small pockets of community. Rajneeshpuram was the experiment of that community, and I live personally in among people, small community around me. We live together, and we live harmoniously in our short, small house. We have 15, 16 nationality living together, 15, 16 different religions, part of it, languages, and yet we have a lot of fun together.
May I ask what you were accused of and eventually convicted of? Because I saw, I think, 39 months in prison, which is 3 years and 3 months. I'm very curious what you were accused and convicted of.
I would like to say a few things about it. They had accused me of laundry list of things. Laundry is dirty. I don't put my hand in it without washing it. I have served 39 months of prison from 4.5 years sentencing. It is so important. I have moved on. I have taken care of moving that mountain out of my way. I have gracefully served 39 months of imprisonment. For last 34 years, after I have been out of prison, I have answered this question in 1,000 different ways. And now, at the age of 75, I say, I don't want to bother with it. You can say what you want to, but I say nothing more.
I respect your wish. I had follow-up questions, but I will not ask them. So thank you.
If you look back at the chapter with Bhagwan, and if you're very critical, what would you do differently? And another question, how did you end up in Switzerland?
Not at all. This period was my utmost training period. I understand you don't like my answer, but not to worry. There are many things about me you won't like it. But I live my life, Bhagwan lives his life, and you live your life. To understand what I feel for Bhagwan and his community, you would have to fall in love with him first. You cannot go to him with prejudice. You have to be in love with him. And in love, 14 years I lived with Bhagwan.
1-4.
And even today, I have not a bad word for him. I would ask you to reflect on your own lover. How do you find your lover now, after so many years that you have spent with your lover? It was a play of love. I would do it all over again, the same way, without a hesitation, without a second thought.
Ma Sheela, and her second question was, how did you end up in Switzerland after your prison time?
I am a Swiss citizen since 1984 through marriage.
Rajneeshpuram was a success or not a success, that depends on the perspective of a person. But it was that it had happened was a success in itself. Going to America, barren land, building a community, bringing thousands of people across the world to that place. Now, if we want to, let's say, repeat that in our own humble way of living, because we cannot go and take land and buy it and create a community, but how can we, as people sitting here, create the same kind of energy, thought process, and community?
Simple ways, wherever you are working, you take your community, work community, more and more in your heart. So if you are working in a factory, you have other colleagues around you. Make them part of you. Bring them this new way that work is not a burden. Work is a joy, a creative presentation of our individuality. So if you transfer your work into creativity, doesn't mean you have to paint the walls either. No. But whatever you're doing changes quality into love, friendship, and you will see that community grows with you. And you be human with them and give them the same respect that you like for yourself. It will happen. You won't have to do anything.
Thank you, Sheela ji, for being here with us. I have a question. Do you watching Bollywood movies, and who is your favorite actor?
Do you watch Bollywood movies, Ma Sheela, and who's your favorite actor?
Actually, I don't watch much of the Bollywood. I these days watch the American mess. Political mess. I waste my time, I know, but it's a madness.
You never had something with music in Bollywood?
In Bollywood, I used to like an old actor, Dilip Kumar.
Oh,
He
know
was
Dilip
my
Kumar here.
favorite actor, and an old actress called Madhubala.
Yes.
Yes, these two as a pair also on the screen look wonderful. Delight for my eyes.
Yes, I agree. Thank you.
Yeah.
so now you watch the American politics sitting in Switzerland. So why do you say it's a mess? Can you elaborate? Why is it a mess?
Don't ask me.
You started it.
I know. I know. That is, they are moving away from democracy. Generosity of democracy, they have forgotten. And some people who don't have merit were given the choice to elect these people. It's a misfortune of America.
Of the world.
Of the world too, yeah, you're right.
Your vision and what would you think about COVID period and vaccination, and what would Osho think on it?
I'm happy this period is over and we have to concentrate more that it is over and take prevention that individual choose to go for. There is no general understanding of COVID that I can recommend how my views are. I found COVID vaccine to be helpful to me personally. So if you feel that personally it is important to have vaccination, then by all means. When COVID was going on, there was a moment we had 2/3 of our team and our patient had COVID, and we dealt with vaccines. And we had good luck, or somebody was protecting, I don't know. But we are all healthy again. So I cannot get into discussion of what is better for you. It's an individual choice, and you make according to you.
Would Bhagwan say the same thing, do you think?
I don't know at this point what Bhagwan would say, and I can't predict either.
I find it very inspiring what you were sharing about fearlessness and on being yourself. And I was wondering if you have let go of the need for approval, and if so, how did you do it?
No, I had learned to be myself.
And how did you learn that?
From childhood, father, mother had taught us. And then come to Bhagwan, and he put more understanding he brought towards it. So often it is my analysis that we go for approval because we want easier time. We want to be comfortable. When you want to be comfortable, you got to listen to other people's opinion. But if you are ready to live your life, you don't need anybody's approval.
Sometimes you work in a team and you are dependent on other people's opinions, and then you cannot say, okay, their opinions, I ignore that, I can do whatever I want.
As long as you are honest, you don't have to worry. When you are direct, in your honesty. Yeah, you might have a couple of mishaps where somebody's ego is bigger than yours, and then you suffer. So you have to decide, is suffering better? It's again the comfort. What is important, comfort or being yourself? That's the issue.
And I'm just also curious, how did this happen? Because this big story of Osho and all the things around it, you made it so beautifully intimate in this setting with this documentary. How did you two come here together? Let's say, what's the, in short, story behind that?
Yeah, so the story was that I first wanted to invite Ma Sheela here to the Netherlands. Why? Because I was making a production named Many Phases of Love. And Many Phases of Love is a production that talks about different aspects of love. And that you do not have one type of love. You can be in love like Radha and Krishna, the Krishna and his devotee Radha. But at the same time, you can also have that kind of love which Krishna had with Draupadi, which was actually a mutual love of respect and honor, but was purely platonic. So this was something that intrigued me when I heard about Ma Sheela's story with Bhagwan. I will keep calling him Bhagwan for you. And this intrigued me to connect with her because I wanted to have her here. But unfortunately, because in the media she's portrayed as this controversial figure, we have to look out for her. And even while I was organizing this screening, I did get some question marks of, am I doing the right thing to invite her over? So even this whole screening, we have carefully conducted it. We have invited a select group of people who we knew beforehand, just to make sure that, nothing unfortunate happens. And this has to do with the framing of the media of women, how the media portrays women like Ma Anand Sheela. She has a very strong opinion, and people are afraid of very strong opinions, and especially if it comes from a woman, and also from a woman who is not per se a white woman, and not a woman who was born and brought up in the West, then they have an issue with it. And that was actually my fascination to ask her, okay, well, you couldn't come here, can I come to you? And she invited me over. And I think during the interview, as I said, I had no questions prepared. So how was it for you? Because, oh my God, you must be thinking this girl was not prepared. How was it for you?
I found your questions very relevant. And I told you during interview, and I told her later on also. She asked genuine questions. Questions which one can learn from. And questions, they were multidimensional.
The piece about your father and mother, did you expect it to be part of the film? That you thought I would use it in the film?
Which part? Yes.
The parents' part, your father, your mother, because we elaborated on it quite a lot in the beginning.
It all seemed normal to me. Now I have to view it again, huh?
And we have one last question at the back.
I have to ask this question because in my head it's like, this is not logical to me. This devotional love that you had for Bhagwan, when I'm in love, there has to be something physical. It's not normal and logically. So I understand the devotional part, but for me, it's a bit like a big question mark with having such an intense relationship with someone like that. So how was it not physical? Also from his side.
Okay, so she is in doubt. She is wondering how your intense relationship with Bhagwan, it was a relationship of mutual respect, but how come it never went beyond that, never physical, and also not from his side? She's curious more about his side. Why not?
Why not? I never asked him. Yeah, and it was not relevant for our expression of love. Body was not the part of it. It was something else. Maybe soul, but I don't know what soul looks like. Heart, maybe? Yeah, so it was not relevant enough to even discuss that or talk about.
But in Don't Kill Him, she does explain about his he also had a partner. So that comes in the book. Oh, she wished that he would choose you as a...
But have you not seen in the photos in the film how he looks at me? If you look at that, next life, if I meet up with him, I'll ask him.
Okay.
Okay, so my question is actually also about love, and she actually stole half my question. But I want to turn the question around. You talk about love, like you fell in love and you were in love. I want to ask, what do you feel about the importance of being and receiving love, and also how it matters to people nowadays?
The way I feel love comes from a generosity of the heart. Then you are not worried about other loves you or not. But it was obvious from the photo he loves me, that I can tell you. The relationship becomes such that he becomes the focus, the loving object. And the rest becomes irrelevant. And that is the beauty of love, where you stop existing and the other exists for you. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how I feel.
And how about receiving love?
It's not a question of receiving. He can hate still. You know, I can't help it. I love him.
But I have noticed, just to conclude, you are a very loved person. Even if I just, the 2 days that I have spent now with you, you have Teresa here with you, who loves you so much that constantly, wherever you go, she's clicking pictures with you, right?
She does love me.
So there are many people. I also saw that when we were in Matrisaden, the people you work with, your colleagues, who work for you now for almost 20 years, some do. But I also noticed something very interesting, and that's the people you take care of. Because people who have dementia or any other mental health problem, you cannot fake liking someone in front of a camera. And that is what I have noticed. All these people depended on Sheela. So during the interview, what would happen? That's why you can see, the story is not built logically. You can see shaky shots. You can see she's running around suddenly. Why did she do that? Because someone needed her, and she just left the interview and went to take care of that person. So I had to film around her work. And that was quite fascinating, that these people, even one resident, Christina, right? She came to Sheela constantly asking for chocolate. If someone doesn't love you, doesn't trust you, he would stay away from you, who wouldn't be near you. But these patients, they love you.
This is the reason for it is, a lot of my patients, they have a black hole of love. They don't have known love in life. They come to us and we look at them at the same eye level and treat them as individual that they are. Just like I'm an individual, they are individual. And most important thing is we let them understand we are there for you and you are there for me. And in a short time, they understand intuitively that they trust us. Something is not right for them, they come immediately to us. We drop everything what we are doing and we take care of them. And this brings them to the point that they can trust us, we are reliable. And then their fears of rejection disappears. And then there is other level of communication.
Thank you so much, Ma Sheela, for spending so much time with us in this meaningful conversation. And I want to have a big round of applause for Ma Anand Sheela.